Welcome friends, I am Dr. Ravi Jaiswal, Associate Professor in LBS Group of Institution Lucknow. Today the topic that we will be taking on, that is the buyer seller relationship, managing relationships with suppliers, customers and distributors. This topic is the part of B2B and service marketing. The paper code is KMBN MK03. The first we will start with the buyer seller relationship. Basically this is the edge of the competition. Every day new companies, new organizations are coming up with the new types of products, and each and every company has its their own say USP, and they offer different kinds of goods. Their goods may be similar, but they have the different kinds of quality and different offers. So, the relationship between buyers and sellers, it is important, because establishing a good relationship between the buyers and seller, it is not a very easy task. It is a very difficult task, or we can say it is the most difficult task, because in the business, in the marketing, this is the relationship that can give the buyers as well as sellers, to both it can give the wings to grow. Making the sellers fulfill all the demands and getting the maximum number of buyers is the toughest job both of them have to encounter. Basically sellers and buyers, those have different kinds of customers, and their customers have different kinds of taste, the preferences, and all the preferences and taste and the requirements maybe it may not be the easy task to fulfill and to give them the satisfaction at utmost level. So, for buyer seller relationship, there are some basic fundamentals or some concepts that should be studied well. The first is the communication. Communication is basically the basic fundamental of the buyer and seller relationship, because it is the communication that can create the difference between these two. There may be different kinds of buyers for a certain seller, but if the communication between these two buyers and sellers, their sales representative, are good enough, then the seller will be able to give the better quality of goods at the better cost or the lower cost of, they may offer some discounts. Basically it is the interaction of the sales representative that may create the difference between the organizations, between the different buyers of a certain sellers. Also there must be respect between the buyers and sellers. Buyers and sellers must have, and they must show it also, the respect to each and every one, because this is the respect, this is the feeling of concern, that what they think of the buyers or sellers. This directly influence the behavior of the buyers towards the seller and for the sellers towards the buyers. When it is we show, or the seller show the concern, the care for the buyer, and buyer shows their concern to the sellers, then it will improve the relationship between the two. There should be directness. Directness is basically it is a transparency between these two entities. When buyers and sellers, they have open relations, they have the honest words, honest informations, and they have access to the information what they have in reality, then it creates the directness, and this directness boosts the relationship between these two, and this directly help the buyers as well as the sellers in making their businesses or creating more and more profit. At the same time, there is fairness, which is the another fundamental of the buyer and seller relationship. Fairness means not creating much profit, means if say if the buyer is not very much aware of the prices that that prevails in the market, then it is the responsibility of the seller that that they should not make unwanted profit. It means they can or they should create the profitability for their own, while at the same time they should not harm the financial aspect of the others. So, there may be different kinds of the relationship between the buyers and sellers. It is just because of different types of factors, as we have already discussed in last lecture, that there is business environment, and business environment is directly affecting the relationship between the buyers and sellers, and these environmental factors have different kinds of influences over these relationship between the buyers and the sellers. The first relationship is the transactional or distant relationship. Transactional relationship is basically the relationship between these two entities, between the buyers and sellers, that in case when in the market there are abundance of the suppliers or the sellers, and at that time every supplier may offer different kinds of benefits or almost the same benefits. Then at that time the buyer may engage with the certain seller only one time or very less time, say 1, 2 or 3 times. It means there is not close relationship that may be created just because of the factors of the large number of the suppliers that are available in the market, and when the supply market is constant, because supply market is constant means each and every supplier needs to create their own market, and for that purpose they may at different moments they may offer different kinds of the benefits in terms of the discounts or the other offerings. So, in this kinds the relationship is called as the transactional relationship. In this kind of relationship generally the products are taken for the order or for the transaction when there is no much complexity in the purchase decision. It means purchase decision may be complex or it may be simple. If it is not so complex and we can move one seller to another seller, one supplier to another supplier, and the buyers may not feel in case there is no much complexity in the process. So, it will be easier, it will be easy for the buyer sellers to move around and to find new sellers every time. Preferred, it is generally this relationship, this kind of activities are preferred by the sellers when they feel that the buyers have low potential. If the buyers have low potential from the seller aspect, they may think that some other buyers may be searched to make the supplies. So, see here two things are important: suppliers, the number of suppliers are large, and the sellers and the buyers have low potential. So, it will be beneficial for the seller at that time to switch from one buyer to another buyer. The next is the seller focuses on low price of the product and also aim at the timely delivery. When it is the first time relationship or the one time transactions, then every seller knows that what is the importance of creating more and more market, means making the relationship between the with the buyer itself. Then at this moment the seller may focus they may offer the low prices for the product, so that they can create the longer term relationship with the potential buyers, and also they may aim at the timely deliveries. It is just to create the more and more or good enough relationship with the buyers or say potential buyer itself. Okay. The next relationship is the value added or continuing relationship. In the market, we can the seller, the buyers may have this type of relationship when there is medium sales and the potential of the buyer is also medium. So, every seller will have need to create or to increase their market by supplying more and more goods, but at the same time the seller has less or medium sales. For that sales, if they have problem in survival or they may feel to have more and more revenue generation, then at that time this value added or continuing relationship may work. Basically, this relationship lasts longer, and here the repurchase decisions are made again and again. Basically, this type of relationship aims at fulfilling the needs of the buyers more than that of the competitors, because these are the buyers who are going to create the market for the sellers. So, every buyer has its own perspective, and every seller will need to create their market by providing them the maximum value for their prices, what they have what they are going to pay. In this kind of relationship only the longer term relationship can be maintained. High quality goods, more value goods in low prices. The main objective, see, the main objective of the seller in value added or continuing relationship is getting the maximum share of the market, because again the sale is medium and every buyer has also the medium potential. So, they means the seller will have need to create the more and more market, bigger market by making the good relationship for the longer run. This is called the value added. Then the third is the collaborative or partnership exchange relationship. This type of relationship is we can see in the today's era. This is the era of the collaborative relationship, because every seller and every buyer, if they are having some relationship, then they have their goals aligned with each other, and if the goals and objectives are aligned, they may work together to find their common goals, say to create the market. The basic foundation is the commitment and trust in this relationship between the buyers and the suppliers, because it is the commitment and trust that give new ways to make new relationship or to make the relationship for the longer run. And here in this relationship, since it is the collaborative types, then both the parties, whether it is buyer or seller, both will have the mutual relationship and mutually they will be making some benefits, and that too for the long term. When there is less choice in the selection of suppliers, this kind of relationship exists. Suppliers are not in abundance, and every buyer has a need to acquire the raw material, the different services that may be required for the production of their goods or services. So, if there is less choice of the suppliers, then the collaborative relationship will work for them. Here much complexity is involved in the purchase decision, because both will have their own benefits, and and due to that benefit the more complexity will be there. Seller prefer it when they feel that the potential of the buying firms are high. See, sellers and buyers both will have their own benefits and they basically जो sellers होंगे they will go with this kind of relationship when they see that for in longer run they will be having the more and more benefits or advantages with the buying firms, and it is directly dependent on the potential of the buying firms. So, these were the types of buyers and seller relationship. Now, we will move ahead with the management of the relationship with the sellers. Relationship is important, and there are several modes or there are several ways by which the relationship can be improved between the buyers and sellers. But yes, relationship with sellers, with buyers and with distributors, these are the important aspects and they should be worked in the proper direction, proper manner, so that everyone can be benefited, and it has different perspective also. Management, now we will moving with the managing relationship with the seller. There is relationship with the between the buyers and sellers, and both the buyers and sellers will have their own perspective to manage the relationship, to improve the relationship. How it can be improved? If we talk with the buyer's perspective is basically getting the satisfaction from the sellers. If sellers are they are working towards the providing satisfaction, and it is important factor basically. So, seller always should satisfaction for the to the buyers, so that they can engage wholeheartedly with the particular seller, and it can create the relationship in for the longer run. Also, there may be different kinds of the sellers available in the market, and each and every seller has its own benefits for the buyers. So, if some seller is engaged with the buyers, then the competitiveness is the aspect, is the factor that should be taken care of, because competitive prices should be there and competitive quality also should be maintained, means more and more quality at lesser prices. If a seller is means they succeed in providing this kind of competitiveness, then for sure the relationship can be better between these two entities. Another point from the buyer's perspective is the innovation. Innovation is basically the kinds of newness between by the sellers offered to the buyers. What new process, what new kind of communication, what new kinds of product or the services that the seller can offer to the buyers. If they are able to do this, then yes, it is again going to boost the relationship. Many times organizations, the sellers are ready with providing the finance facilities. What is this finance facilities? If there may be the kind of situation that buyers are not able to pay the payments at the time when it is being purchased, then seller should be ready to provide the some grace period or providing some other modes of payment or some time duration, so that the payment can be made. Many times buyers are also offered some direct finances funds to buy the products, to create some new things, to create some new process in their own company. So, these were the buyer's perspective by which the relationship can be enhanced. At the same time, there may be the seller perspective. Seller perspective is what? It is the what the seller thinks of creating the relationship, what parameters are there, what criteria are there. First of all, from the seller's perspective, the payment should be on time. Seller always feel happy if the buyers are paying them in the right time and the time at which for which they have promised. They also have some elements of the flexibility. Many times buyers say straightforward order the services or the goods for the proper time at the time required, but if sellers are given some time or some flexibility, at that time they feel happy and they may go for longer run relationship, because it is the convenience of the seller that help them to create some new things, some new relationship, so that the buyers can be benefited by them. There may be the personalization of the relationship. Many times buyers may go with the personal relationship, creating the relationship in the kind that may visit them very not very frequently, but time to time they may have face to face interactions. They may go for the lunch at somewhere, some hotel or the restaurant, or they may wish their birthdays or their anniversaries like this. If the buyers go with the personal kinds of relationship, then it will help or boost the relationship with the sellers. Also share complete information about your company, and this sharing will help the sellers making the or providing the product at right time. The last perspective is the be demanding. If you are a buyer, you can demand the product at right time, but at the same time you can be a valued customers, means you can help them to fulfill your demands. You can give them some different considerations for fulfilling the demands. You can help them in creating certain processes for creating the demands, for fulfilling the demands. How we can manage the relationship with the buyers? There are some attributes by which the high quality of relationship can be maintained, and these attributes are satisfaction, delivery of best quality services, trust and commitment, courtesy, preferences to human responses. Basically, people generally needs satisfaction from their sellers, from the products what they are getting from the sellers. They need the best quality services at the right time. There must be trust and commitment between the buyers and sellers. There should be courtesy should be there by the sellers to the buyers. Generally buyers needs assistance and for that assistance they need not the artificial intelligence, they need the human responses, and they feel happy at that time. The person, the executive, those who are having the interaction with the buyers, they must be responsive. They should respond at the right time, in the right manner, and they should be experienced enough in these kinds of services. Also, always the seller should offer the best prices, competitive prices, and the competitive deals, so that the buyers can feel happy, and always believe on the technological changes, because if there is technological changes in your company as a seller, then you are going to deliver the best quality product at best time and in low cost. So, by fulfilling by understanding these kinds of the attributes, we can say yes, the relationship for sure will go high and high between the buyers and the sellers. And the last is the managing relationship with distributors. Distributors are generally, they are the persons who are who acts as an intermediary between the buyers and sellers. Sellers will not think, cannot think about the delivery of products without the distributors to the customers. So, managing it, if the relationship is important with the customers, then again it is important with the distributors also, and for that purpose always the seller should always meet with the distributors in person. They may visit frequently to the distributor and may ask for their concern. Always there must be communication open, so that different kinds of problems can be shared, the queries can be shared and fulfilled. Always support, as a seller, always support your distributor by participating in their meetings. If you are going in the meeting of your distributors, then you can have your internal informations of the distributors, and different events can be sponsored by the distributors, and those events also helpful to create the demand. And if you are means you are going or participating in meetings and events organized by the distributors or funded by the distributors, at that time they may feel glad, and they may have that you have concern, and you are the person who are interested in the longer run relationship. Then the final is the help in marketing and sales. With the distributor, you should always help in marketing and sales, because this is the matter where your and their interests are aligned. So, there are some references you can go through. Thank you. Very soon we will coming up with new topics.